Hi, I'm Michelle Green, and I am a short story writer, a poet, and sometimes performer. Write I write in the short form, in all the different shapes that comes in. Um, I published my debut short story collection with Comma Press in 2015. It's called Jebel Mara, and all of those stories are linked together and based in the same place, um, focused around a particular war. I'm going to read you another short story today that's not part of that collection. So this story was commissioned as part of a BBC Radio 4 series called Border Crossings. It was a few years ago, and they paired writers together um, to to inspire one another's work, looking at border crossings. So I was paired with a Syrian writer who at the time was still living and working in a regime occupied area. So she couldn't use her real name in the publishing. She had to use a pen name, and her piece was something that, as a writer, taking inspiration from that, I looked at the images that she was using. She was writing about some of the experiences that had been and are still happening inside Syria at the time. And as a reader and as a writer, there's no way that I can come near to being able to emulate that. And so I found my way towards something that was inspired by her work by looking at the image. So one of the images that comes up a couple times in her story is of birds, and there's like a bird tattoo at one point that's really significant. So yeah, rather than try to follow a theme, I followed an image. So I wrote this story. It's called Demoiselle, and I don't think there's anything else you need to know about it. It's a pretty short, um, and yes, that's it. I hope you're all well and well fed, by the way. Okay, so this is Demoiselle. There are these cranes that gather in their thousands every September in China and head for the Himalayas. They cross together as a flock at one of the most desolate parts of the whole range, 5 miles high, and they spend the winter in India, and then they do it all again on the way back in April. It was on a David Attenborough. The kitchen light is off. Cooker, toaster, kettle. They've got extra big hearts to cope with the lack of oxygen up there. They ride the thermals all the way into the death zone, and then over they go. Something like 2,000 miles they travel. And here's the thing, they know the route from birth. Imagine knowing that. Imagine knowing something so well that your children are born with it. Hallway light off. Bedroom light off. Sockets off. Ashtray by the bed is clear. Plug for the clock is on, and the clock is on. Maybe I should switch it off this time. Reset it when I'm back. They're called Demoiselle cranes, like damsel, but Kate calls them by the other translation when she writes to me. Unmarried women. I like that. The unmarried women did well this year, she'll say, 1 week early, with a strong tailwind. She'd already been to see them once by the time the Attenborough thing came out. She even went to the village they showed on the program, same one, and she met the family that's in charge of feeding the cranes when they land on the Indian side. 1 month, she said she'd be away. And then it was 2.5, and then 3. Now it's the same every year. The cranes, the villagers, and Kate. Lights off in the bathroom, and the shower is off. The 2-prong shaving plug by the sink is buzzing, but there's no switch for it, so I just watch it 7 seconds and then wipe the top of it with my sleeve. She comes back tanned each time, her skin creased from where she's been squinting, and when we go out for lunch, her noodles go cold while she tells me about it. She tags the juveniles after they survive their first crossing, and she looks for them again the next year, counts them, keeps track. Loads of them won't make it. They'll die of exhaustion on the way, or poachers, or thirst. They take the absolute hardest route, the toughest, every time. Even though there's loads easier, it's always got to be that one, because they know something that we don't. That's the one that's set in the hollows of their bones. Their parents did it. They do it. The eagles get them sometimes too, especially the young ones. But if it happens near the village, everyone just has to watch. Can't interfere with nature like that. That's what Kate says. Even though she tags them every year, which seems like interfering in a way, but I suppose it's different. I don't know. Have you seen the program, I ask her, about the migration? She says no, she hasn't seen it, but maybe we can watch it later. Living room is off at the main socket. Computer, TV, lamp. Ashtray is clear, but I push the single butt down hard against the orange glaze just to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I stub it out. Main light is off. There was a poacher 2 years ago. He got sent to prison. The family that's in charge of the cranes on the Indian side, they caught him and they turned him in. He's not the only one, though. There's loads more, just picking them off as they reach the end, for decorations and pets. When Kate's away for those 3 months, I go into the noodle place like normal, once a week on a Monday, order the one chili soup, and the owner says the same thing every time. Your friend off chasing the birds again, ain't that right? I nod yes, and then he smiles, though at what, I don't know. I go back into the kitchen now. I know I've already done it, but I'm out for more than a few hours this time, so I need to be certain. Really make sure. Kettle, light, cooker, toaster, plugs off. I still feel tense. Worried about it. Kettle, light, cooker, toaster, plugs. It's just easier to do it again. Methodical. Once I get to the door, it will be right. Kettle, light, cooker, toaster, plugs. They're off. This is the 7th year on the trot. Her 7th year. And this year I'm joining her. Hallway light off. It's definitely off. I picture the journey. The closed-in smell at the airport, the squeeze of the plane, all those bodies, and then the bus winding through the foothills. So much rush and noise, words that mean nothing to me. Bedroom, sockets, ashtray, clock. I decide to leave it. The clock. It'll be fine. Actually, no, I'll turn it off. Make sure. Bedroom, sockets, ashtray, clock off. I see her there in the valley, standing on that scrub grass from the pictures, and she's tall next to the locals. New creases in her face, new map lines, and I cry when we meet. I never do this in person, but when I imagine it, it's like this every time. Bathroom, shower, the shaver, the buzzing. I bring noodles, just wipe it with the edge of my sleeve. Cheap ones from the Chinese shop at the end of the road, vegetable flavor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we cook them on a low fire and we eat. Living room off. Ashtray, cigarette butt, it's out. And at the end of it, we turn our backs to the wind and we leap. Arms wide, 5 fingers stretched like flight feathers, and our extra big hearts thump, thump, thump against our rib cages. Lights off, pushing the oxygen, the thin air off. All those unmarried women soaring right over the rooftop of the world.